Jen McCabe, it's me or her. Either I'm going down, Jen, or you are.
Those are fighting words directed at a lead prosecution witness because Karen Reed believes the conspiracy to frame her for murder started with Jen McCabe's Google search. How long to die in cold? Welcome back to It's a Crime. I'm your host, Margaret McLean, and we're going to be taking another look behind the scenes, this time with criminal defense attorney Mike Risconi. Here's a preview of what we'll be discussing today. Reed's defense strategy and conspiracy theory started with a Google search, how long to die in the cold. In the very beginning, this case appeared to be a tragic hit-and-run accident in which the defendant, Karen Reed, struck her boyfriend, Boston police officer John O'Keefe, with her SUV. However, it turned into something very sinister with this Google search. A cell phone forensics report surfaced and appeared to show that witness Jen McCabe performed this Google search at 2:27 a.m. If true, it would appear that something horrible happened to John O'Keefe inside the home of fellow Boston police officer Brian Albert, and that Karen Reed was framed for murder. Thus, the conspiracy theory was born. So, let's take an inside look at how Special Prosecutor Hank Brennan is handling the problem, and how the defense is pushing back, claiming that the prosecution witnesses are either manipulating data or outright lying. We're also going to be talking trial strategy. It's the second time around, so a lot of thought is going into the order in which these witnesses are being called. For example, Ian Whiffen testified right before Jen McCabe. Now, he's an expert with Celebrite, the software company which produces and analyzes cell phone data. This was a strategic move by Special Prosecutor Hank Brennan, and a smart one. Based on my experience in trying cases before a jury, the order that you call your witnesses is often crucial. Now, I can tell Hank Brennan has put a lot of thought into it. Ian Whiffen testified using scientific data why witness Jen McCabe never Googled how long to die in cold at 2:27 a.m. Her Google search actually occurred at 6:23 a.m., and that's very important for the prosecution, because it caused the defense theory of conspiracy to fall flat on this point. I asked attorney Mike Risconi what he thought about Ian Whiffen's testimony this time around, and here's what he has to say.
From what I watched, I thought it was better. It was clear, it was streamlined. They probably looked at what happened last time. I am familiar with Celebrite because I have plenty of cases where they have Celebrite phone dumps. And in every case, I have to hire an expert, and because there are timestamps on all these things that don't make any sense, and I need this guy to explain them to me, like I'm 5, so I can explain it to a jury.
And Ian Whiffen did exactly that. He explained to jurors that Jen McCabe searched how long to die in the cold in an open tab on her phone. She Googled about a basketball team at 2:27 in the morning, and 4 hours later, she Googled how long to die in the cold using that same open tab. Take a listen.
You showed us a tab that was opened at 2:27:40, and it had something to do with Hawkmock Sports?
Yes.
In your opinion, to a reasonable degree of scientific certainty, was that the same tab, that 2:27:40 tab open for Hawkmock Sports, was that the same tab that later was used for searches or attempted searches at 6:23:51 and at 6:24 relative to how long or how's long to die in cold?
I believe it was, yes.
He also does a nice job summarizing his testimony for the jurors, making it simple.
I went into the data, looked at the various different databases, different files that were in use, tested it across many different devices to make sure that my understanding and analysis of it was correct.
I also asked attorney Risconi if he had spoken with his Celebrite expert about this case and what he had to say. Remember, the defense has been pretty much basing their whole conspiracy theory on this alleged Google search by Jen McCabe.
I was on the phone with him about one of my cases at the time this happened, because I had heard in Stoughton District Court that someone got struck by a vehicle. It was the Boston cop, and attorneys on behalf of Miss Reed apologized and said it was a horrible, tragic accident. And then all of a sudden, it was all about this. We have evidence that this Google search exonerates her. And my first reaction was like, wow, that's something. A couple of days later, I was just talking to my expert about a case I had. Said, hey, what do you think of this? He's like, yeah. He's like, I don't know if that's much of a game changer. He's like, it just depends on the tab or the cache, stuff that I don't understand. He's like, the cache, the way your phone works, what tabs you use. If you use Safari, if you use Google, if you use all this other stuff, then it's going to show different timestamps. This is my issue with a lot of the Karen Reed stuff, is that two people look at the same thing and they have wildly different explanations, and that's fine. But this is one of the situations where I'm not sure how you have a different explanation, where the person that works for the company is telling you how the software works. Now, the defense had an investigator call him, apparently, ask him about it, because it didn't appear that he knows how it works.
Attorney Risconi is referring to Richard Green, who testified for the defense in the last trial. He called the Celebrite company because he had questions on how to interpret the data pertaining to Karen Reed's Google search. Whiffen explained that misinterpreting the Celebrite data has been a common problem.
And I don't know if the guy just didn't like the answer and he didn't call him back.
Exactly.
Yeah, so, and if you're just a layperson sitting there, why wouldn't you listen to the person who works for the company, who has now said in this trial they have since corrected it so it doesn't show up? So if this same incident happens tomorrow morning, that search isn't in there because it didn't happen then. And then a non-scientific explanation is, well, she was looking up kids' basketball schedule at 2:36, and then all of a sudden now at 2:37 she's covering up a murder. I mean,
yeah, that doesn't make sense at all. You're right.
No, it makes absolutely no sense.
I also like this expert's delivery. He simply relays the facts and the science behind it. He's not arrogant or condescending, and the jurors really paid attention. People inside the courtroom said the jurors were on the edge of their seats. As a trial lawyer, I have to say that Brennan is skilled at direct examination. He gently draws the storyline from the witness, allowing her to shine. It's very important for witnesses to be guided professionally like that. He's skilled at listening to his witness and then questioning with baby steps.
And at that point, Miss Reed started yelling to Miss Roberts, go check on him, are they working on him? Is he dead, is he dead? And at that point, myself and Miss Reed got out of the car, and she started yelling and pulling on me to Google hypothermia and Google how long it takes for somebody, to die in the cold.
So when you were outside of the car with the defendant and she had asked you to do a search regarding hypothermia, did you try to do that?
Yes, I did.
Do you know the exact time from your memory? Not from reading or learning, but from your memory. Do you remember the exact time you did that?
No.
Was it after the police came that morning?
Yes.
Had you ever attempted to search about hypothermia any time before that moment, that morning?
No.
Or that day?
No.
That week?
No.
Was this the first time that morning after the defendant asked you to search that you searched that phrase?
Yes, it was.
The timing of this Google search is so important to the prosecution that Brennan called yet another expert to confirm Ian Whiffen's testimony. The following is from expert witness Jessica Hyde. Take a listen.
What I can state to a scientific degree of certainty is that search occurred at 6:24 a.m. and was the last search in the tab that had been opened at 2:27.
Defense attorney Alan Jackson cross-examined McCabe on that Google search, casting doubt on her credibility. He's planting the seeds to later follow up with his expert witness, Richard Green.
So you agree that you were on Google, correct?
Yes.
You agree that there was a search done at 2:27 a.m., correct?
I don't recall doing a search at 2:27. The paper says it. I don't.
Okay. And you also agree that at some point that morning, you plugged into that phone, Haas Long to Die in Cold. Is that right?
Yes, after we found John O'Keefe.
Now, you claim that was at 6:23 and at 6:24 in the morning, two iterations of How long to die in the cold. Long to die in cold. How long TI die in CIKD, correct?
I'm not claiming it. It's the truth. It's what happened.
You're testifying to that.
Yes, I am.
There's so much more to discuss about this trial. I think Hank Brennan is in the lead. He scored the most points with this jury. Yet, remember, it's his case in chief. And remember, the prosecution has the burden of proof. That means Hank Brennan must prove each and every element of the charges beyond a reasonable doubt. Hey, a big shout out to attorney Mike Risconi. He really knows his way around the courtroom. If you need a good Boston-based lawyer, reach out to him at the law office of Michael Risconi. In the next episode, we'll be digging even deeper into conspiracy theories. Are multiple witnesses for the prosecution colluding to frame Karen Reed? Or is it all a red herring? Be sure to catch up on all my YouTube videos at itsacrimemedia.com, and I'm following this case all week on X. My handle is itsacrime at Margaret McLean _. Once again, I'm your host, Margaret McLean. Thank you for listening to It's a Crime.